Hi guys, welcome back to Belle's Books. I'm Carly and today I'm going to be talking to you about the books I read in the last part of August and the first part of September. Now I've got two books to chat about that were part of the History Challenge. A bit belated doing this History Challenge wrap up. So the first one is Gentleman Jack, a biography of Anne Lister by Angela Steidele. And actually this is a translated book. Bear with. And the translator is Katy, Derbyshire. I read this as a buddy read with Emma from a couple of books, and we had things to say on this. A lot of things to say. I thought I was going to love this book, and I have very mixed feelings about it because I watched the TV series Gentleman Jack by the same name, and I adored it. And therefore, I thought I was going to be on the side of Anne Lister and just love everything about her. Turns out not so. She was, as is quoted in this book, a beast of a woman. I'm just astounded. I was astounded by this book. She was just not a nice person, and that's, she was not a nice person. It was very interesting reading about her. I think because I'd come from it from a point of, oh my God, I'm totally going to love her because she's amazing, to then realise what a nasty piece of work she was. And I have mixed feelings about it because, it's really great to be able to hear about people like this from history that, broke the mould. She was a non-apologetic, masculine presenting lesbian, and she didn't care that the way that she didn't dress the same as other women. She dressed like a man, and she conducted herself like a man. But the problem with that was she went all the way with it. She was kind of very patriarchal in her dealings with women, and it was just heartbreaking to read about all these women that, so she would only ever go after the very pretty, feminine looking women. The lesbians that she met that were kind of like her, like almost semi-masculine presenting, she didn't want to know. She was like, well, there's no possibility there. Also, she would only go after women if they had a fortune. She was a landowner, but her position was precarious. She needed money to do the things she wanted to do, and the way that she went about that was to get someone else's money. And to kind of engage them in this kind of like marriage pact so that she could take all their money. And it was just, I felt really sad for all of the women that she made fall in love with her, because she was a seducer. She would go after a woman, seduce her, make her fall in love with her, and she would cheat on so many people, spreading around sexually transmitted diseases without a care. And these women were having mental health problems because of the way that she was treating them. And she just didn't see that at all. She was like, oh God, she's so emotional. And a couple of these women ended up in an asylum because of her. And I'm just, it's just like, what? How could you do that? Crazy. It broke my heart, this book. Also, a note on style. I found the style quite clunky. So it's, a lot of the text from this book is taken from Anne Lister's diaries, which I have separately, and I don't know if I want to read it now. So there's lots of quoted passages in here directly from the diaries, but it's not. So the way that she does it, I don't know if you can see that. So that some of the text is in italics, which is where it's quoted material. And there is commentary from Angela Steidele in here. And that she doesn't like, Angela Steidele does not like Anne Lister. And I think maybe she had the same revelatory journey where she was like, oh, this is such great material. And as she looked into it more, she was like, she was just a horrible woman. So you can tell that she doesn't like her the way that, and she does give you commentary on the stuff that's happening, about these women who had mental health problems because the way that Anne was treating them, and she just was totally oblivious to it. But I just didn't think that the writing didn't hold up for me. It just wasn't strong enough because I don't know whether it was a translation issue or the fact that the quoted material was embedded into Steidele's words. Sometimes it was a bit jarring. It didn't flow from her words to the journals. So where she'd cut it in like half a sentence, yeah, it just didn't flow for me, and I had to keep rereading some parts of it. So that was another problem I had with it. I mean, I had a problem with it because Anne Lister's a bitch. It was just like, I was so disappointed because I was just so ready to love her, and yeah, just gutted by this. Emma had the same feelings. I'll link her video in the description box down below. Now, the other book I read for the history challenge was I listened to it on audio, and it was Gender Rebels, and it's something like 50. The lives of 50 women, like cross-dressers and game changers, and it's by Anneka Harry. Now, I really like the premise of this book, but again, the writing style was just terrible for me, so much so that I had to DNF it. And it was just, I read a review that someone wrote like it was like a BuzzFeed article on steroids, which is what it was. It was just, I wanted the information, I wanted the content, but the style was just like pun after pun after pun, trying to be funny, trying to be clever, but trying to be like down with the kids, all this really cool language. And I was like, oh, this is so draining. And after the third time of hearing it, that was enough. I was like, no, I can't carry on with this book. And I was really disappointed because like when the actual content of it was good, it was, you know, all these women from history that dressed as, like, in the same way as Anne Lister, dressed as a man to get by, to get what they wanted, to get in the army, to rule a country, to get out of marriage. And the premise is fantastic, just the delivery was appalling. So I would like suggestions, please, of books that do the same thing, but just not in really annoying language. Okay, so those two were my two history challenge books, both quite disappointing. Although I have picked up a lot of other recommendations from everyone else's history challenge videos, so that's good. Fingers crossed for next year. Okay, then I read two little books that were published just recently about everything that's going on in the world. So I've got How to Stay Sane in an Age of Division by Elif Shafak. This is a very small collection of essays that has just been published. And also, I'm going to put these two together, Intimations by Zadie Smith, another very small collection of essays. It's gone wobbly because I got caught in the rain. It's gone all crunkly. Both of these books basically look at what's happening today. They look at COVID, the way that governments are responding to the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, the rise of the far right, extreme racism, misogyny, bigotry, all of those kind of things. And I picked up these because I'm, at the moment, like a lot of us, I think I'm looking for hope. And when you're feeling really discouraged and disheartened by the state of the world and everything that's going on, and now all of these crazy anti-vaxxers protesting in London about not wanting to wear a mask and spreading the virus like a bunch of idiots. Yeah, I went to these books for hope, and I did get it, but just kind of not enough. So both of these look at, you know, things that are happening now and take on both of these writers' reflections on these current events. I love both of these writers. I love their writing styles, and I would heartily recommend both of them. In the Zadie Smith, she focuses on the racism issue of the Black Lives Matter backlash from all of these crazy white supremacists. And there's some really touching essays in here. Like there's one about that I've recommended to a friend actually, about how suffering is relative and how we've all had a bad time during this year. This whole year has been terrible, and how when you're suffering you may think, oh well, I shouldn't be feeling like this because other people have it much worse. And this looks at that and says, look, your suffering is your suffering, and it's difficult for you no matter what kind of suffering it is. And yes, there are different extremes, but it's still difficult for everyone going through this time. So I would highly recommend both of these. I logged on to an online event where Elif Shafak was speaking at. It was the Liberty Lecture, about how we can take action, how we can be activists in this time of, you know, division and extreme digital cultures where everyone's at each other's throats, which I've been participating in with my racist family, as I've mentioned before. So this one is very good if you kind of want some motivation to, like, how can I do this? What can I do to take action? Yay, both of these little things, and they won't take you long to read because they're teeny tiny. The next two are books that I got out of the library, and I need to take them back today, which is why I'm doing this now. I read Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. Oh my god, you guys, this is a young adult book, and all right, so I'll talk about what it's about. It tells the story of Jam, who is our main character, and Jam is a trans girl, and that isn't made, it's discussed kind of early on, but it's not made a really big issue out of, so it's really nice that it's just like, this is just what's happened. She's a trans girl. And we're in a utopian society where there are no monsters anymore because they have been run out of town. So this is a town called Lucille, and everyone is amazing. There's great rep in here. There's a disabled librarian, and like Jam is trans. It's just lovely. And then one day, Jam goes into her mother's studio. Her mother is an artist, and she's created this painting of this weird beast looking thing. I love a beast. And the beast comes out of the painting, and it has a mission. It has a mission to find a monster in her town, and it goes from there. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to give spoilers. Trigger warning for child abuse. I mean, this is a young adult novel. It's dealt with very well. You, as an adult reader, you know what's happening, but it's not, there's not detail in there, so it's kind of not, you know, it's not difficult to read, but it's still a bit difficult to read. But I will tell you what, guys, the writing in this book, I'm assuming this Akwaeke Emezi is going to be one of my new favourite writers, because their writing style is just sublime. Loved it. It's just beautiful. And so Jam goes on this quest with Pet, the beast that she's pulled out of the painting, to find the monster in her town. And it is kind of quite heartbreaking at times, but I just want everyone to read it. And I think this book should be like on the curriculum for all school kids to read. Honestly, it's just amazing. I have their next book, The Death of Vivek Oji, which I'm hoping to get to very soon because, oh my god, just love the writing. Just amazing. I think everyone should read this. Please read it. It's beautiful. Okay. And lastly, I finished The Thing Around Your Neck, a collection of short stories by Chimamanda and Ngozi Adichie. I've spoken about this a little bit in my last video. Very much enjoyed this, as I knew I would. She, another amazing writer that I just adore her writing style. These stories are set either in Nigeria or in America, and they look at people that are making transitions to go from Nigeria to America or back, or vice versa. They look at family relationships, complexities of selfhood. So the one thing that I love about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is that I think it's in her, she's done a TED talk about the danger of a single story, and in all of her stories, every single character is just beautifully fleshed out with complexities. So these stories just show you how it's not, one person isn't one thing. You can't categorize one person as one thing, and you have to look at the nuance and the way that people change and all the multiple influences on a person, to be able to appreciate their complexities. And that's what I love about these stories. My favourite one, I think, was the last one in the collection. That really stayed with me. It was called The Headstrong Historian, and that kind of traces 3 generations of a family from, I think it's like late 19th century up to kind of 1950s, 60s. So a mother who has a son, and this is in Nigeria, and they are very much embedded in the culture of their Nigerian tribe, in their tribe or their village of where they live. The mother wants her son to be educated in English so that he can defend their lands against appropriation from a couple of her husband's, I think they're cousins. So because she wants him to learn English, she takes him to this church, because there's like all these Christian missionaries going into Nigeria. And then because he is getting an education there, he becomes totally absorbed in the Christian message and becomes a fully fledged Christian, and then rejects his mother and their way of life and all of the associations with that culture, which is heartbreaking. But she's baffled by it. And it's just so sad to see that. And it's obviously a commentary on colonialism, and there's a bit about slavery in there, because I think her ancestors were slaves. And then it goes to his daughter, who rejects his Christian way of life and tries to reclaim her Nigerian heritage and the name that her grandmother gave her. And it's just so lovely. Some of these, a lot of these stories are quite, they don't leave you feeling happy. I felt quite sad after I finished this collection, but they're so well written. They touch on such important topics. I just think everyone should read this. It's amazing. Rather disappointingly, I haven't read Americana, so hopefully I can get to that very soon. I just love her writing. She's amazing. So I think, yes, I talked about the audiobook. Those are all the books that I have to speak to you about. I will be coming back with my October TBR, because I'm taking part in Victober and shut up emails. And as it's coming up to Halloween, I like to read some spooky things in Halloween. So I'll come up with an October TBR and talk to you very soon. Talk to me in the comments, please. Have you read any of these books? Have you read Pet? Did you love it as much as I did? Oh my god, it's one of my favourite books of the year, honestly. Talk to me in the comments below, and I shall see you very soon. Bye guys.